The chime of the bell beckons us into a sacred time. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, where we widen love's circle by honoring the inherent worth and dignity of all. However you arrive today, we welcome you. We extend a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. Buenos días y bienvenidos a esta comunidad, donde ampliamos el círculo del amor, honrando el valor y la dignidad inherentes de todas. We greet all those who join us this morning. We hope those watching the live stream will fill out the online attendance form and refer to the many announcements in the online order of service. We ask those here in person to take a moment after the service and introduce yourself to someone you don't yet know. Now, please join Savannah for our first song.
Please rise in body and/or spirit and join me in singing hymn 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. We'll be doing this one in a round. The first time we'll all sing together, and then we'll go through the round twice and join whichever part you like.
This morning, we offer a call to worship inspired by the Islamic roots of Unitarian Universalism. Jim McGehee will provide us with a version of the Islamic call to prayer adapted for our sanctuary.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ushhadu alla ilaha illallah, ushhadu alla ilaha illallah. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah. Hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas, encendiendo esta luz.
Please join us in reciting our congregational covenant found in the order of service. Love is the spirit of our congregation. Service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to encourage one another. Thus do we covenant.
Our song this morning is entitled "The Music Comes From Thee." It is an original composition inspired by the ancient traditional Sufi chant, Allahu, and the poem, We Are As the Flute, by the Sufi mystic and poet known as Rumi.
Good morning. My name is Kinsey Shackelford, and I'm the Director of Religious Exploration here at the church. For the past few weeks, one of our classes has been doing a very special project inspired by PhotoFest and inspired by Diana Matar's My America, which is up right now in the sanctuary. With this project, we have talked about the concept of third places. A third place is a place other than your home, your work, or your school, where you feel comfortable and safe. Now, I would like to invite Livy, who is one of the people who did the project, to read her artist statement about her third place. Go ahead, Livy.
Every time I go into my safe place, I love it. It feels like my mom's hug. All the teachers are so kind to me, and this is why it's my safe place.
Very good, thank you. So for the remainder of Photo Fest, our art is going to be displayed in the sanctuary foyer. And just like you would keep your hands to yourself with this beautiful photo display, please do not touch the artwork that the children have made. You can move from side to side as it is a two-sided art piece, or you can move your head side to side, but please do not touch. I would love for you to admire their artwork and tell the children what an amazing job they have done. Now, those who are going to classes with us, I invite you to come to the back of the sanctuary with me to go to our classes. Please remember that we love you. You are an important part of Unitarian Universalism now and in the future. And I invite the congregation to sing As You Go with the words printed in your order of service.
As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go.
Enter with me into the space that some call prayer and others name meditation. Open yourself to the wonders and mysteries of the world. Open yourself to compassion and empathy. Take one breath. Take another. Find your center. Spirit of life, known by many names, called God, Allah, the divine by some, understood by others as the highest aspiration in the human heart, love, the force that drives life forward, the dream of peace that lives in each good breast. We invoke you this morning as the wicked winds of war, of violence, of state oppression blow. Again, the United States and Israel provoke war in the Middle East. Again, we have witnessed anti-Semitic violence and a shooting on a college campus. Again, the government oppresses freedom of speech, of belief, of assembly, of political persuasion. This past week, 8 defendants were found guilty of terrorism-related charges for their activity in anti-ICE protests in Texas last July. Evidence that the Department of Justice cited, including wearing black, knowing their rights, and owning a printing press. Each defendant is now facing a prison sentence of 10 years or more. Let us send them strength and love in these difficult times, as again the government criminalizes dissent. Against such cruelty, against such confusion, against the violences of state and hate, let us today in this sanctuary during this time of prayer open ourselves to the great task before us, to lift up the beautiful, to bind up the broken, to bring more joy, love, and empathy into the world, that we might remember that we are each blessed with this work to do, that we might understand that we are empowered to do it not alone, but together, uniting hearts and hearts and hands in hands, in the hopes that the more beautiful world which is out there can be brought into being. I invite the congregation to say, Amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light upon our hearts. We hold Carolyn Ross in our prayers and send her healing wishes as she struggles with recent health concerns. We hold Peggy Harvey in our hearts as she navigates a recent health concern as well. We offer prayers for the 150 or more Iranian children who were fatalities in the war in with Iran when their school was bombed. We send prayers for Drew Rondo and his family. And we offer up a prayer that the ceiling in Channing Hall does not also come down. We now turn to a practice inspired by African, indigenous, and neo-pagan traditions. We say aloud or bring to mind the names of those who wish to have held in the loving embrace of this religious community. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. As we do, let us extend our empathy to all of the suffering and joy amid and among our community that has gone unnamed. We pause now in awe and wonder at the beauty, diversity, and mystery that is life. In the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion, I invite you to enter into a time of silent meditation, reflection, or prayer.
In the quiet of this place, let this moment fill with grace. This is my prayer. This is my prayer. May the sense of mystery guide us through
prayer. This is my prayer. This is my prayer.
Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values. Through our generosity, our work in the world is proliferated, and our values are brought to life. This week, we are supporting Advocates for Immigrant Survivors. Advocates for Immigrant Survivors is an organization whose mission is to provide immigration legal services and social services to aid survivors in accessing the rights to justice, dignity, and restoration. They provide trauma-informed immigration legal services to survivors of violent crime, case management, outreach, and education. In 2024, they served 246 survivors from 38 countries of origin in 10 different languages. We welcome Sarah de Jesus to the pulpit to speak further about this important organization.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to speak about Advocates for Immigrant Survivors, or AIS. We're a small organization in Houston. We serve victims of crime such as trafficking and domestic violence. We are a small team of 3. I am the caseworker, and the other 2 are 2 attorneys, which are the co-founders of the organization. My job, my role is a survivor advocate. So what I do is I try to meet the client where they're at. When they are coming from surviving trafficking or domestic violence, they're interested in receiving legal services, of course, especially because they're free, especially because they're receiving services from 2 great attorneys that are very empathetic and are bilingual. But they're also in search of somebody that can offer a friendly hug and a smile, and somebody that offers support. So what I do is I do an intake assessment with each person that comes to our office, and I see what they need. Sometimes it can be something not as urgent as I'm trying to enroll in school, or I'm trying to find a better job to sustain my family. Most cases, though, they're in need of our case management branch called the safety net branch, which is they need immediate housing, shelter, or food. So that's why we are here to ask for support, not just here, but in all the community and all the world, because these victims of crime are really struggling to survive. So we're offering assistance in the legal aspect of things, and also my favorite one, my favorite service that I offer is called Wellness, the wellness branch of case management, which is I meet with our group of clients every Friday, and I offer breathing techniques, meditation session. I teach them about journaling for gratitude prompts, and we end the session with some yoga. And that is where I get the most feedback about how they're no longer having panic attacks, or they are resting more at night. And that makes them more open to receive the other branches of case management, which is building a resume, enrolling in school, enrolling in ESL classes. So those are the case management services that we offer. If you want to learn more or volunteer, please go to our website or come talk to me. I'll leave my cards. I would be more than happy to offer more information. And thank you for having me today. This is a beautiful service. I was here at the 9:30 service, and I really felt welcome. So thank you very much. I'll end my little speech with a quote that I usually try to read before every time I meet with a client, and it's a quote by Hafiz that says, "I wish I could show you, when you're lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being." Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Those in our sanctuary here will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service, and those watching from the live stream will see instructions on their screens. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
Please join me to dedicate our offering. The words can be found in your order of service. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. Our first reading is an excerpt from the foreword to Susan Ritchie's book, Children of the Same God: The Historical Relationship Between Unitarianism, Judaism, and Islam, written by Rebecca Parker. Unitarians are children of Islam as well as of Christianity and Judaism. You can find Muslim prayer rugs in Unitarian churches in Eastern Europe. Passages from the famous 16th century Edict of Toleration are directly traceable to Islamic texts. The politics of the West rest on caricatures of Islam that are insensitive and inaccurate, so the discovery of our Muslim roots now matters more than ever. The greater nuance, complexity, and grounding in truth are important for the sake of fostering peace and understanding. Historically, Unitarians responded to the multi-religious context of the cultures in which they lived, following a path marked by peaceful, positive, and creative interchange among Muslims, Christians, and Jews. Rather than clinging to anti-creedal rebelliousness as the hallmark of Unitarian identity, we need to come to an understanding of pro-multi-religious interchange as a defining characteristic of Unitarian Universalist identity. The popular use of the poetry of Jalal al-Din Muhammad Rumi invites us to study and consider Islam more deeply and participate more fully in its religious practices. Perhaps we can embrace our Muslim ancestry as a meaningful part of our lineage and be inspired to recognize a distinctive calling in our time to advocate beyond our own religious movement for multi-religious interchange and understanding, affirming kinship and relationship among religious traditions. Perhaps we can let go of fictions of purity, even about our religious heritage, and cease our search for a unique identity. Perhaps, knowing our history better, we can more faithfully travel on the path that celebrates religious difference, religious connection, and religious mixity
in a creative dance. Here ends the first reading.
Our second reading is Only Breath by Jalal al-Din Muhammad Rumi. Not Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi, or Zen, not any religion or cultural system. I am not from the East or the West, not out of the ocean or up from the ground, not natural or ethereal, not composed of elements at all. I do not exist. Am not an entity of this world or the next. Did not descend from Adam and Eve or any origin story. My place is placeless. My trace is traceless. Neither body nor soul. I belong to the beloved, have seen the two worlds as one, and that one to call and know, first, last, outer, inner, only that breath-breathing human being. Here ends the second reading.
Hello. Hi, guys. We're going to deviate a little bit from the order of service today. Our next hymn is going to be number 1003 in your teal hymnal, Where Do We Come From? This is another round, so this side of the congregation will be singing part 1 with me, and the other side of the congregation will be singing part 2 with Dr. Lonika.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery.
Life is a riddle and a mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Where do we come from? Who are we? Where are we going? The hymn signals something true about us. We humans are narrative creatures. Our lives have beginnings, middles, and ends. In between, almost from the moment we can first talk, the majority of us work to place ourselves within greater stories. Religion is our human response to the dual reality of being alive and having to die, Forrest Church wrote. Aware of our ends, we seek to place ourselves within stories that will outlive us. Family, country, ethnic group, political tradition, metaphysical narrative, or religious community. Mostly we arrive after a tale has started and before it terminates. All the world is a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and entrances, is how William Shakespeare put it. In a dimly lit bar, my brother summarized the matter somewhat differently many years ago. He said cheekily, "A lot of stuff happened before I was born." A lot of stuff happened before I was born. Evolutionary biologists, physicists, historians, family systems theorists, they all tell us that our answers to the question, where do we come from, partially determines the answers to the questions, who are we and where are we going? I anticipate that you have your own answers, or are seeking your own answers. Joining a religious community means in part not only that you agree to seek the answers to your questions alongside others, but that their answers partially become yours. Your story, my story, our story, the rhythm of congregational life. All of us entered the sanctuary doors of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston after the story of the congregation started. I pray that our stories will end before the story that is the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston ceases. This morning we pivot as we continue further in our sermon series on religious dissent, a narrative of a kind, and explore our origins. As Christian nationalism rises, as people like the Secretary of War appear to invoke end-of-times theologies to justify illegal wars, as the governor seemingly casts Islam as other than and threatening to Texans, one of the ways that we dissent is by rejecting what the Unitarian Universalist theologian Rebecca Parker called fictions of purity. Political reactionaries, white supremacists, religious zealots who make exclusive claims about the nature of theological truths. There is a tendency amongst the advocates of rigid hierarchies of race, class, and gender to draw firm boundaries around human stories. Such boundaries do not naturally exist. But in their narratives, there are such things as a Christianity that is not a synthesis of all of the Middle Eastern prophetic and mystic traditions that preceded it. Might have some Jewish influence, but surely not Babylonian, Zoroastrian, or Sumerian. And the textual truth that the God of the Hebrew Bible and the Christian New Testament incorporates, as the biblical scholar Tikva Freimarkensky noted, many of the functions and attributes of the female goddesses, well, not so much. The Sufi poet Jalal al-Din Muhammad Rumi pushes such insights into a more mystical direction when he rejects the idea that any religion has full grasp on theological truth. He sings, not Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi, or Zen, not any religion or cultural system. I am not from the East or the West, not out of the ocean or up from the ground, not natural or ethereal, not composed of elements at all. And then he concludes, I belong to the beloved, have seen the two worlds as one, and one that calls to and no, first, last, outer, inner, only that breath-breathing human being. Breath-breathing human being. Rumi rejected fictions of purity. Instead, he taught that spiritual enlightenment could be found among many paths. God is one. The wise call him by many names, is how the Rig Veda put it. Forest Church stated it somewhat differently. God is not God's name, he told us. God is our name for that mystery that looms within and looms beyond the limits of our being. Still, in some versions of Unitarian Universalist history, we are reminded of our Christian origins primarily. My ministerial mentor, Mark Bellatini, did this beautifully in a sermon built around the refrain, "Before we were born." Mark recounted in his humorously titled text the entire history of the Unitarian Universalist movement and its institutions in 25 minutes flat. The long lineage of Christian radicals and heretics who chose not to conform that eventually coalesced into our contemporary Unitarian Universalist movement. Once, before we were born, we were called Arians, after the ancient North African preacher Arius, who upheld the idea that the unknown, unbegun, neither Father, Son, nor Holy Spirit was the source of all things. Once, before we were born, we were called Origenists, after the North African theologian Origen. He taught there can be no eternal hellfire, and all people universally must come into wholeness. Once, before we were born. Mark's list is lengthy, a 2,000-year-long litany of names that might be familiar to some of you. There are the Pelagians, after the Irish monk Pelagius, brothers and sisters of the Free Spirit, Anabaptists, Socinians, eventually Unitarians and Universalists. The refrain in the sermon, "Once before we were born," somehow has made it stick with me more than 25 years after I first encountered it. But it does not quite answer the question, where do we come from? In his sermon, Mark quoted the Roman philosopher Cicero. Cicero wrote, "To be ignorant of what occurred before you were born is to never grow up." To grow up. I suspect that one reason why you come to First Unitarian Universalist is to pursue spiritual maturity. I know that despite all of my imperfections, my own efforts in religious leadership are oriented towards the pursuit of what we occasionally call growing a soul. In our religious tradition, we understand religious work to be an ongoing process, a constant striving to uncover, to discover what it means to grow in the likeness of the divine. Once before we were born, it is a sign of spiritual maturity, a measure of the growth of our souls, to be ever seeking to understand our origins. Physicists offer us clarity into the unfathomable nature of existence when they recount that the first stirrings of the universe are wrapped up in the Big Bang. There is a bit of Rumi's wisdom. My place is placeless, a trace of the traceless in the mysteries that they pursue. there is a bit of the profound when we consider that in some sense the universe was pregnant with us when it was born. Once before we were born, evolutionary biologists remind us that our very consciousness is shaped by the primordial that preceded us. Crudely, my brain, your brain, contain the structures of fish, lizard, and earlier mammalian brains. Once before we were born. On an individual level, family systems theorists help us to recognize that the patterns in our families of origin shape our own behaviors. On a societal level, historians empower us to do the same. It matters that Texas was once part of Mexico, was the center of the Comanche Empire, is a state founded by enslavers, served as a refuge for European revolutionaries who escaped the consequences of failed uprisings in the 19th century, and was the one-time home of Barbara Jordan, Ann Richards, Molly Ivins, and Mickey Leland. Once before we were born. One of the practices of religious dissent is the rejection of fictions of purity. That applies as much to understanding where we came from as who are we now. Today in this congregation and in the Unitarian Universalist movement, we reject theological purity and embrace, as Rebecca Parker observes, religious mixity as a religious dance. We have interfaith families that are Jewish and Christian, Hindu and Muslim, Muslim and Christian, Jewish and atheist, plain old Unitarian Universalist and Hindu, Buddhist and Christian, Dan. Well, you get the idea. And if I failed to list your own family in there, it is not a matter of oversight, but rather a matter of time. Over the next few months, as part of our practice of religious dissent, we'll be looking back to our history. Probing where do we come from will help us to better understand the theological pluralism of our present. With that understanding, we will come to a better sense of who we are and where we are going and how those things are central to our collective story. Once before we were born, this month and next we will touch upon Islam and the Islamic origins of our movement. Then in May and June, we will examine how religious traditions that sometimes get called Hinduism have shaped us. By lifting up both, especially in this time when non-Christian communities are being targeted by the powers and principalities of the hour, we might encounter new ways of being both in solidarity with our neighbors and growing in spiritual maturity. Once before we were born. The relationship between Islam and Unitarianism goes way back. Some historians have claimed that Michael Servetus, who is sometimes characterized as the originator of our faith, rejected the Trinity on the basis of his attempts to reconcile Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Reading both Hebrew and Arabic, he found within those sacred texts no mention of the Trinity. Reading the Christian New Testament closely, he found nothing there speaking of it either. Once before we were born. I want to take a different turn to one of the first uses of the word Unitarian in the English language. It concerns a letter that was never read and a meeting that never took place. The unread meeting or letter and the unheld meeting, I found both of them referenced in the Library of Unitarianism and Religious Dissent I sometimes haunt in Oxford, England. The letter that was not read and the meeting that did not take place, well, they're from 1682. The letter and the meeting. The letter was attached to a bundle of papers that some Unitarian ministers attempted to deliver to the Moroccan ambassador, just as he was getting ready to leave London. The Moroccan ambassador was an Islamic man, and he refused to accept the papers and read the letter on the basis that they concerned religious matters and that he should not interfere in the religion of England. So the packet of papers was passed on to an English civil servant who gave them to an Anglican priest, who deposited them in an archive where they lay, likely unread, until they were discovered in the late 19th century by a historian who promptly recognized them as one of the primary documents of Unitarianism. For the historian, the documents marked the start of the time when English-speaking Unitarians, that is, our early religious ancestors, recognized themselves to be part of a coherent movement. These ministers did so, the historian argues, though through an understanding that they shared, in their words, a worship of the onely sovereign God, who hath no distinction or plurality in persons, with Muslims. These early Unitarian ministers were trying to connect with the Moroccan ambassador because they believed, in the historian Susan Ritchie's words, that they were children of the same God. Children of the same God. Our unread attempt at interreligious dialogue is fascinating on a number of points. It tries to synthesize Unitarianism and Islam to find common points of unity while acknowledging areas of difference. It suggests that both groups should come together in theological opposition to reject the scourge of idealizing Christians, namely Trinitarians. Children of the same God, this unread letter, which resulted in a meeting which never was held, might change something of how we Unitarian Universalists understand ourselves. Some historians have sought to narrow our theological influences, and in doing so, suggest we should primarily be in dialogue with liberal Christians. As we consider the great questions, where do we come from? Who are we? Where are we going? In a facetious passage, one writes, as between Calvin and Servetus, or Calvin and the Socinians, who has the greatest influence on Unitarianism in the United States? Calvin, of course. Calvin, of course. What the unread letter suggests, what historians like Susan Ritchie and the theologian Rebecca Parker argue, is that our movement has been multi-religious since its inception. Once before we were born should not include just those who put themselves in dialogue with Christianity, but those who sought conversations across religious traditions. Once before we were born, children of the same God. There are numerous stories that could be told about our tradition's interactions with Islam. I could tell you about how the Edict of Torda, the great 16th century Unitarian proclamation viewed as Europe's first statement of religious tolerance, has its origin in dialogue with the Ottoman Empire. Or I could talk with you about Imre Thekli, the Hungarian Unitarian count who, in the late 17th century, sided with the Ottomans against the Catholic Habsburg Empire because he thought that Muslims were more likely to embrace theological diversity than Christians. Or the ways in which early Unitarian feminism arose largely in response to exchanges between British Unitarian women and Muslim women in Turkey. Or once before we were born. All of the answers that we will ever find to the question, where do we come from, will always be partial. So much that lies in the past, whether it be our families of origin or our religious communities, will never be known. But that unknown somehow continues to shape us. In his sermon, Mark shared a reflection from the poet Jane Hirschfield on this point. Titled, "The Heart's Counting Knows Only One," it reads in part, "In Sung China, Two monks, friends for 60 years, watched the geese pass. Where are they going? One tested the other, who couldn't say. The moment's silence continued. No one will study their friendship in the Cone books of insight. No one will remember their names. No one will remember their names. Part of our dissenting tradition, I posit, is having the humility to recognize that where we came from, who we are, and where we are going are all more complicated than we can ever truly understand. Against the fictions of purity, we are called to embrace that life is a mystery. Our past contains the unknown, the names never remembered, and the things that we will never understand. When we learn something of a new name, an earlier moment in history, then we are called to reconsider something of who we are. Once before we were born. Our tradition calls us to embrace fluidity rather than fixity. Once before we were born. It challenges us to recognize that we have no single origin point, but instead to invoke the Unitarian Universalist folk singer Pete Seeger. We are all mixed up. In that spirit, I choose to close with a story from the Sufi teacher Mullah Nasruddin, as recounted by Idris Shah. Not because it offers an easy, pure answer, but because it reminds us that spiritual maturity often resembles embracing confusion and contradiction. Nasruddin was a contemporary of Rumi and something of a trickster. The story runs like this. A great theologian was deathly ill. He sent for Nasruddin in the hopes that the Sufi might provide him with a prayer that would ease his transition into the afterlife. Nasruddin, the theologian, said, "You have a reputation of being able to communicate with another dimension. Can you teach me a prayer to help me along my way?" "Here's your prayer," Nasruddin said. "God help me, devil help me." Stunned, forgetting that he was on the edge of death, the theologian bolted upright. "Heretic!" he shouted. "Not at all, my dear fellow," Nasruddin replied. "A man in your position cannot afford to take chances." When he sees two alternatives, he should try to provide for either one of them working out. With Nasruddin, with the writers of our unsent letter, with all of those whose names have not been remembered, against the fictions of religious purity, let us say, truth is one, the wise call it by many names. Let us recognize, as Rumi did, that first, last, outer, inner, only that, we are each a breath-breathing human being. Let's acknowledge that however we answer the question, where are we going, however we name the ultimate, we are all, be it a matter of metaphor or reality, children of the same God. That it might be so, I invite the congregation to say, Amen.
Rise in body and or spirit, and join me in our last hymn, number 318 in your gray hymnal, We Would Be One.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that
Please join me in reciting the words to extinguish the chalice found in the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Rumi wrote, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Where the soul lies down in that grass. The world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the words each other don't make any sense. Let us go in the spirit of love. Let's go in the spirit of joy and peace. May our lives be a blessing. Amen."